my gosh, that was the most awesome minimalist introduction I've ever had, Joe. Like, the English teacher was like, is this a haiku? Like, I wanted to count the syllables, but I didn't have enough time. So, awesome. Thank you so much. It's so wonderful to be here with all of you, wonderful people. I'm so grateful to get to speak to all of you, my first Camp Phi, and I knew everyone here would be really smart, but I didn't realize how kind and generous you would all be, so I'm just so honored to be with you, and I hope that my talk today is my way of giving back to all of you for your generosity and help you live a simpler and just more open and free life. So I'm Rose, and today we're going to be talking about minimalism for a financially intentional life. And here's what you're going to learn today. We're going to talk about what minimalism is, why it matters for a F.I.R.E lifestyle, and of course how you could get started doing this if this is something that is interesting to you. But first I want to share with you a little bit about my stuff story. We all have a stuff story, which is the story of our relationship to our stuff. And my stuff story starts in Christmas of 2011. So many of you know I have triplets, and so this picture, if you go back about 4 or 5 months prior to this picture, I had just gone back to work full time. I took a couple years off of my teaching career when my triplets were born, and then after 2 years of staying home with triplets, I thought, wow, teaching middle school sounds like a break from this. And when that's the truth, your home life is in a really sad state. So I went back to teaching middle school full time, and my life kind of started to look like the classic double shift of many working parents. So I had to be at work at 7. I got home around 4, and after that it was like clocking into a second job, which is the job of taking care of my 3 2-year-olds. And then I did that job, and by the time I got them in bed at night, I had maybe 1 hour to myself, where all I wanted to do was sit on my couch and relax. But what I found I was doing during that one precious hour was this third final job, which was dealing with my stuff. And I was picking up, toys and shoes and sippy cups and moving piles of paper around because I didn't know what else to do with it. And it was really exhausting. And then I finally, dropped into bed exhausted, got up the next day, and did it all over again. And I thought, this is just the way it is. When you're a full-time working parent, like, this just must be the lifestyle. But it came to a head around Christmas. And we had taken the kids up to Michigan to visit the out-of-state grandparents, both sets. And you can imagine, like, looking at the cuteness of this, right? What's going to happen when you take them to visit their out-of-state grandparents for Christmas? You're going to get so much stuff you can't even fit it in the van to bring it all home. So we get back from Christmas. I've got this van full of stuff. Pull into the driveway in Dayton, Ohio. I go inside and I'm like looking around the house. I'm like, we don't even have room for the stuff we already own in this house. Now I got all this new stuff. I don't know where to put it, and it felt like a burden. All of these gifts, instead of feeling like a blessing, felt like a burden. And so about a week after this picture was taken, I had lunch with a really good friend of mine, and I was complaining to her about the holidays. I said, we went to Christmas, the kids got so much stuff, we've already got too much stuff, I don't know where to put the new stuff. I think I just need to buy a bigger house. Any woman who's bought a bigger purse knows that's not the answer to your problem. And my friend looked at me and she said these words that changed the course of my life. She said, you could do that, or you could become a minimalist. And I thought, I don't even really know what that means, but I'm up for anything. I went home, I started reading books and blogs on the topic of minimalism or simplicity, and over the course of the next 8 months, I let go of about 70% of our possessions, which sounds pretty dramatic. It's a pretty significant number, but I want you to realize that the most dramatic thing was not what I let go. It was actually what I discovered underneath. Because underneath all of that stuff, I found 3 really life-changing things, which were free time, peace of mind, and clarity. And I think all of you who are here at a F.I.R.E conference are here because you want more of these 3 things in your life as well. So for me, I found that the ends of my still very long and busy days, I still teach middle school full-time, I still have 3 2-year-olds. This is not an easy or relaxing life. But with that one precious hour at the end of the day, more often than not, I was now on my couch with a book, with a mug of tea, and I was at peace. And so that second thing I found was this greater sense of peace of mind. I felt more calm and relaxed at home. I felt a lot less like I was walking into a stressful second job when I got home at 4 o'clock. I felt comfortable with people just stopping by my house. I felt comfortable at work as well, because it's bled into my work with people just stopping by my classroom. And the third thing I found was mental clarity, which was something I didn't even realize I was missing. But for the first time since having my kids, I had the mental clarity to think and dream, which resulted in some really unexpected changes in my life, like starting my own business, writing a book, doing a TEDx talk, which were things I honestly did not have the mental capacity to consider when I spent all my excess energy dealing with my stuff. So when I talk to you about minimalism today, I want you to realize, yes, I'm talking about your stuff, I'm talking about your physical possessions, but what I'm really talking about is how to help you get more of these three things into your life. So just a little fast forward, this is more of what my life looks like today. Now, not every day is my family getting a professional photograph taken. So, you know, bear with us on that. But the triplets are now 13 years old. Since that time of my life where I decluttered a lot of my stuff, I wrote a book, I did a TEDx talk, and I spoke on the economy stage, which is actually the talk I'm probably most proud of, and it's called The Journey to Enough. And it relates a lot to some of the things we talked about yesterday with scarcity mindset. So that's one I should probably rewatch myself every month just to remind myself of what really matters in life and the idea of enough and how that's really, I think, the answer to a lot of the craving that we feel in life. So what is minimalism? My personal definition of minimalism is getting very clear about what you want and then having the guts to let go of everything else. And I think back in my own personal story, I got pretty clear about what I wanted. What I wanted in 2011, 2012 was not a big lofty goal. I didn't want to travel overseas. I wanted 1 damn hour to myself. That was it. I wanted 1 hour of my life where I wasn't serving my students, I wasn't serving my family, and I wasn't serving my stuff. I wanted an hour for myself on the couch. And at that time in my life, that actually seemed like a really lofty goal. But in order to get that, I got clear about it. In order to get it, I had to have the guts to let go of everything that was getting in the way of that hour of free time, which for me was about 70% of my possessions. And I use the phrase have the guts very intentionally here, because if you've ever tried to go through a box of stuff in your attic, you know this is not inherently easy, right? I tell people a lot of times when we are dealing with our stuff, we're not actually dealing with our stuff. What we're dealing with are our feelings and our emotions about our stuff. And our feelings and emotions can be difficult. There can be shame, there can be regret, there can be sadness, all these sorts of things. So I'm going to give you some advice a little later on how to help you navigate through some of the difficult emotions you might face when you start the task of dealing with your physical possessions. Why does minimalism matter in the pursuit of FI? We're going to take a little quiz. Feel free to just shout your answers out to me here. First question, what percentage of the items that we keep are never used? A lot. A lot. A lot is the answer. It is about 80% of the things that we keep are never used. And if you're familiar with the Pareto principle, the 80-20, this is pretty true. And now a lot of you might think, no, I use more. But I want you to think about your closet. Okay, like let's imagine your closet is this big and it's full of stuff. Now you get to laundry day, like slowly it goes down to about this much. You're like, oh my gosh, I really got to do laundry. So you do laundry and you put everything back in your closet and it goes back up this much. This is the amount of clothing that you're actually wearing, okay? The rest of the stuff in the closet, the 80% you are probably not wearing. And you can extrapolate that to your cupboards and the dishes you're using, the tools you're using in your garage. Honestly, most of us, but not Stephen. Stephen uses 100% of the tools 100% of the time. He's the only exception to this. And so if you think about it, a lot of people were afraid to let go of our stuff, but when you actually think of how much of the stuff you're using, you're wearing probably your favorite 20% of clothes, using, except for Stephen, your favorite 20% of tools, and your kids are playing with 20% of their toys. This actually applies all over our lives. What percentage of Amazon Prime members visit the platform daily? I think it does. Another 80%? This is actually a little lower. Daily is about 40%. And I'm not knocking Amazon Prime. I'm a member. It's all good. But when you think about the ease of consumption that exists in our lives today that didn't exist many years ago, back in the day, if you wanted some size medium cat pajamas, you had to go to a lot of stores to find that. And nowadays, you want those cat pajamas, and it's like, one click, they'll be here tomorrow. So the ease of consumption in our lives is actually really significant and contributes to the ability to overpurchase. American homes, do you think they've nearly doubled, tripled, or quadrupled in size in the last 50 years?
Triple.
Oh, you guys are a smart group. Tripled is correct. Yet 1 in 10 Americans pay to rent an off-site storage unit, which I know we talked a lot about real estate this weekend. Just know that this is a really fast-growing aspect of real estate. It's true. People are putting 80% of their junk there. They're never coming back. They're not going to leave a T-bone steak in your cupboards. They're not going to call you in the middle of the night to fix the plumbing. And they're just going to keep paying, right? Because they don't want to deal with it. Speaking of, how much would it cost you in Dayton, Ohio to rent a storage unit for 1 month? This is based on...
Depends on the size.
It depends on the size. So downtown Dayton, I took this picture when I picked my daughter up from an art camp 2 summers ago. It was $60 a month to rent storage in downtown Dayton. I've driven by this past summer, didn't take another picture, but now it's $65. So realize this is the kind of rent you can raise and people don't complain, right? They don't even notice. Now I have some ethical issues probably with self-storage, but if you're looking for a side hustle that's not completely passive, but more so than an Airbnb, here you go. All right, but I'm going to argue money isn't even the number one cost of your stuff. We are at F.I.R.E camp, we talk about money, but this actually isn't the greatest cost of the stuff that you have. Because this wonderful quote from Henry David Thoreau, he said, "The price of anything is the amount of life you exchange for it." So I want you to really think about the amount of life you're exchanging right now for your stuff. And any of you who have read Vicki Robbins' Your Money or Your Life, this concept is familiar, right? She talks about money as what you trade your life energy for. And our stuff is very similar. So I want you to think right now how much your stuff is really costing you in terms that have nothing to do with money and are way more valuable than money. So think about your time. How much of your time are you spending dusting, rearranging? Except for Chris. Chris is not dusting. Chris is spending 0 time dusting, okay? But many of us are spending time, and I think of my life, the 1 hour of my day that I could have had to myself, which is a pretty precious hour, was spent dealing with stuff, picking up things and putting them away and trying to control chaos. How much time are you currently spending organizing, reorganizing, maintaining, putting things back? Oh, I accidentally bought more of this than I need, now I'm going to go return it. And working to pay for all of that stuff, right? That is your time spent investing in your stuff if you have to work to pay for your square footage and pay for your things. Energy as well. Think of all the physical energy that is required of you to move things around. I know some people talk about cleaning takes a long time. Well, cleaning actually doesn't take a long time, and it's not that hard, but decluttering all your stuff and getting the surfaces clear so you can clean. Or your cleaner can clean. Yeah, that takes a lot of energy and it takes a lot of time. And also the neural energy of redeciding where things go all of the time is pretty exhausting. Emotions. When I talked a little bit about guilt, shame, overwhelm, what are the emotions that you're currently spending on your stuff? A lot of times we keep things out of a sense of obligation, we keep things out of a sense of guilt, and think of the amount of emotional energy that you're expending on your things. That's pretty significant. And also relationships. I know couples, probably the number one thing they fight about is money, but in the work that I've done, another thing that a lot of couples fight about is stuff. Whose stuff goes where. If you've ever had a roommate, we fight about whose stuff is allowed to stay in different places. If you have children, how is this stuff affecting your relationship with them? Are you spending time arguing about the state of the house? Do you have resentment because you don't like the way the other person leaves the stuff around? Do you have resentment because they think you should care more about it and you don't? There's a big relationship cost. Do you not have people over because you're embarrassed about the state of your house, so you're not able to welcome people in? So that's really the cost of stuff for many of us, and it has nothing to do with money. And so the question I always ask is, if this is the cost, are you willing to keep paying for it? Because it's significant. It's not just how much you spent on Amazon, it's actually all of these things. So here are some ways minimalism has helped me and Josh as we are on our F.I.R.E path. We stayed in that starter home that I thought I needed to upgrade. This is a just over 1,500 square foot home, and now it's paid off, so that's very nice. Yay, thank you. We stopped mindless shopping. Now, this was before Amber, this was before I knew Target was a good place to meet guys for dates. It's not a good place to meet dudes. Don't meet your dudes at Target. But I put the plural pronoun we here, but we'll be honest, like only one of us had an issue with the Target dollar spot, getting the decor, the cute stuff, that was on clearance, and it was Josh. He was just, I'd be like, come on, honey, you gotta resist. No, it was me, 100%. But he would be the one who'd look at the credit card bill and be like, my gosh, you spent $1,000 at Target. And I'd say, no, I didn't. I never spent $1,000 at Target. I spent $87 at Target 12 times. It's a very different scenario. But when you stop mindless shopping, that has saved us tens of thousands of dollars. I mean, I can't even calculate the amount that has saved. And also, when I talk about mental space, what I found is when I decluttered physically, I did not anticipate the mental space that would open up that would allow me to pursue things that I'd previously thought were too difficult. Things like keeping a budget, managing my own investments, and as all of us know, the result of that is a greater sense of personal power, freedom, and just many more options for your life. Okay, so you're like, yes, if I was at home right now, I would be going through my cupboards, Rose, good. But how? How do we do this? Because many of us have those boxes in the attic or the basement that kind of freak us out that we want to ignore and pretend don't actually exist. So I'm going to give you a couple pieces of advice that answer a lot of the questions I often get about how to begin. And the first one is to start with your own stuff. A lot of times people hear me talk and they think, they say, but really the problem is my partner, my kids, my brother-in-law who's storing all his crap in my basement. And yes, those people would probably benefit from hearing this talk. However, Gandhi told us, be the change you wish to see in the world. So I will tell you, be the change you wish to see in your house. If you want to live a more simplified, decluttered lifestyle, just start with your own things, whatever you have personal jurisdiction over, even if you don't live with other people. Your colleagues at work will notice this, your friends and neighbors will notice this, and if you live with other people especially, they will take notice and just begin to naturally follow along. So start with your own things. And then the second piece of advice is to start somewhere easy. So remember when I said when you're dealing with your stuff, you're not actually dealing with your stuff. You're dealing with your feelings about your stuff. As such, don't start where the feelings are really strong and the emotional connection is high, because typically in our minds we go to those things like the heirlooms that we got from grandma or something from a deceased loved one. Those are emotional minefields, and you are not probably mentally strong enough, emotionally strong enough to deal with those first. Start with simple things. So it's not surprising to me when I started, in retrospect, I started with my towels. And that's because it was my own stuff. I did have to consult Josh, but he's like, I don't care how many towels we have. And it was easy, right? I don't have an emotional connection to my towels and fondly remember that time in 2014 when I dried my hands? It was so great. It's easy. So whatever feels easy to you, where the emotional connection is low, is a good place to begin. And then you can slowly build up to those boxes in the attic that are going to cause you a little more emotional discomfort, but you've got the muscles built up from going through the rest of your house, and you've practiced living with less, and you know that you're okay and you're safe, so it's going to feel a little easier to do those things. All right, if you would like to continue the minimalism conversation with me, I have a few free things you can do if they're helpful to you. If you're interested in getting started, I do have a Simplicity Starter Guide. You can get it by texting less is more to 773-770-4377. It's just a PDF, and what it does is it takes you on a tour through your house, and it asks you the questions that I would ask if I was walking through your house with you. Based on your answers, you rank the spaces, and then you have a plan of where to begin and where to go. I have a Facebook group called Minimalism is Fun. You are welcome to hang out with us there. Just a little caveat, in my marketing, I have recently started branding toward working moms, because they really obviously love what I'm talking about. You don't have to be a mom, you don't have to be a woman, you don't have to be working. All are welcome, but don't be put off by the working moms. Working moms are fun people too, so join us no matter what. And I'm also on Instagram if you want to hang out with me there. So thank you guys. I hope this was helpful. I hope it's inspiring you to live a simpler life, and I'm just honored that I got a chance to present to you today. So thank you very much.